Okay, and we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the last in our current series of virtual tours. Today, I'm going to be taking you all around Kakunodate, which is a beautiful former castle town in Akita Prefecture in Japan's Tohoku region. I'm Matt. Thank you all for joining us today. I know I can see there are a few of you already joining us. So perhaps you can let us know where's everyone joining us from today? Where are you all from? Anyone want to let me know where you're watching from today? Oh, great. I can see someone from California, from some Seattle, someone from the moon. Andreas Wolf, nice to see you again. Great, people from all over. So for everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. I really do appreciate it. So today I'm going to try and respond to your comments as much as possible. So someone from Indonesia, Canada, Mexico, from all over. That's fantastic. So everyone, again, thank you so much for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. I'm going to be responding to your comments as much as possible during today's stream. So if you're enjoying the video, if you have any questions, or maybe if you've been to the place and you want to share your own experiences, please do let us know in the comments and let's get a bit of a conversation going. So to get us started today, I want to ask you all about samurai districts. So Kakunodate that we're going to be exploring in the video is very famous for its beautifully preserved samurai district, that part of the town. So have any of you been to any of those places in Japan, and how many of those can you guys mention? So for me, a really great one perhaps to get us started is Nagamachi in Kanazawa. That's one of my favorites. Can see John Michelle, sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right, is asking if we've done a video on the town that is Kinosaki Onsen. No, I don't believe we have yet. Certainly not a virtual tour, but perhaps we'll think about that one in the future. But anyway, coming back to Castle Town. So today we're exploring Kakunodate. There are quite a few of these dotted around Japan. Another one that I've visited is Nagamachi in Kanazawa. Perhaps a really famous one, often thought of as the best example is Hagi. There's also Tsuano, Kitsuki on the Kunisaki Peninsula, and Utsuki, Matsue. So my point is, if today's video piques your interest, if you're interested in this kind of town, there are going to be lots of places like that you can explore on any trip to Japan. So I hope you enjoy it. So before we get started today, I'm going to give you a very quick overview of Akita Prefecture and hopefully give you a bit of an idea of what you can enjoy on a trip to this part of the country. So Akita, as you can see, is a pretty large prefecture. It's located on the northern part of Tohoku. That's the northern part of Japan's largest island of Honshu. Bali Paradise, hello there. Nice to see you again. Northern part of Tohoku. That's the northern part of Japan's largest island of Honshu, and Akita Prefecture is on the Sea of Japan coast. As you can see, it's kind of roughly rectangular in shape, apart from the Oga Peninsula, which is jutting into the Japan Sea there on the left. Like much of the Tohoku area, about 11% of the land belongs to a national park. It's very rural, and it's known for three things in particular: harsh winters, the really great quality of its rice, and perhaps more amusingly, Akita Bijin. That's the idea that women from Akita Prefecture are said to be especially beautiful. So I couldn't tell you if that's true or not, but it's certainly something that people say. As you can see, that's giving you a bit of an idea of what you can expect. And yeah, coming back to really interesting things that you can enjoy on a trip to Akita Prefecture. Now, perhaps one of the although not a major sightseeing spot itself, the prefectural capital of Akita City hosts one of the most atmospheric and fascinating festivals in all of Japan, and that is the spectacular Kanto Matsuri, held over 4 days in early August. And as you can see in the photos, this is really famous for performers balancing long bamboo poles decked out with up to 46 paper lanterns. Each one weighs they can weigh up to 50 kilos. As you can see, just a huge spectacular event, you know, these beautiful atmospheric lights, and this incredible enormous amount of skill and athleticism of the performers. So as you can see, the poles are often balanced on the hand, the forehead, the shoulder, the hip. you know, weighing as much as 50 kilos. Really, really impressive, really an interesting thing to see. As you can see, sometimes the performers are doing various feats, like doing things with maybe even both hands while balancing these amazing poles. It's a festival that I haven't been to see yet, but I've been reading about it and looking at amazing pictures for years, and it's right up there on my travel bucket list. So absolutely something I'd want to go and see. Now, the next area we're going to have a quick look at is the Tawada Hachimantay National Park. This is a very mountainous area, far removed from any cities, spanning parts of Akita, Iwate and Aomori prefectures, known for spectacular volcanic landscapes and some amazing rustic onsen towns. So here's a bit of a glimpse of the sort of scenery you can enjoy. So one of the first of those rustic hot spring towns that are absolutely worth a visit is Nyuto Onsen, which interestingly literally means nipple hot spring. Now that's named after the shape of nearby Mount Nyuto, but the water also, interestingly enough, is famous for its milky, cloudy colouring. Now in the town are 8 hot spring ryokan. The one here in the photo is Tsuru no Yu. And most of these have a very kind of rustic feel. So perhaps especially for visitors who might be coming back for a second trip to Japan, if you've already explored a little bit and you're looking for a more traditional, back to basics kind of experience, I think this would be a really, really interesting experience to have. Most of these baths actually also offer mixed outdoor bathing, which is something that's increasingly rare in recent years, but you can still have that experience, as well as the more conventional gender segregated baths. Now, one of the really great things about Tohoku is the way that you can feel the change of the sceneries. This is the same hot spring bath, Tsuru no Yu, but pictured in winter with that amazing snow around. You know, it certainly seems like a really amazing experience to have. Now, the next hot spring on our list is Tamagowa Onsen, known for Japan's most acidic hot spring water. I believe it's close to pH 1, and a very rare radioactive type of stone called hokutolite, both of which are believed to have a range of pretty impressive health benefits. And for that reason, if you visit this place, you're likely to see not just the usual people out to enjoy a sort of relaxing hot spring bath, but also people who are there specifically for health reasons, to enjoy the medicinal qualities of the water in these stones rather than just a relaxing state. Now, another highlight of a stay here can be found just a short walk away, and this is the valley where the hot spring water emerges from the ground. It emerges extremely hot at around 98 degrees, and also you can also see the single most productive source of hot spring water in all of Japan, which produces 9,000 litres per minute. Now also, again, if you explore on foot, you can find various sources of the hot spring water, hissing sulphurous vents, and some of those radioactive rocks. You may even see people lying on them for the health benefits. I can definitely see some love for Tsuru no Yu in the comments there. Yeah, I really envy that you've had the chance to explore that. I can't wait to go and see it myself. Okay, and the last one on our list is Goshogaki, another great resort in the area, which has just one ryokan offering a range of baths, including steam and mud, to overnight guests and day trippers alike. What really sets this spot apart is its scenery, and just behind that ryokan is this valley, which is very volcanically active, with, again, steam vents, bubbling ponds, mud volcanoes, and you can actually explore this area via a network of walking paths. As you can see, really especially beautiful in the autumn months, just absolutely amazing scenery, you know, paired with this kind of, you know, almost sort of otherworldly landscape. To me, it reminds me a little bit of Yellowstone Park in the States, if anyone's been there. Just absolutely fascinating place to explore. Okay, so coming back to the main reason we're all here today, which is Kakunodate. We're going to have a little bit of more of a closer look at access and how to get there in a moment. But first, just a little bit of a bit of background on this amazing city. So, amazing town, I should say. So this is an old castle town in what is today Akita Prefecture. It was first established in 1620 and really flourished during the Edo period of Japanese history. And interestingly, it really is in the perfect spot for a castle town. It's just north of the rich rice-producing Senboku Plain, shielded by mountains on 3 sides, so really amazing defensive spot. And it's renowned throughout Japan for its cherry blossoms. As you can see, as you're exploring along the streets of the samurai district, there are these large weeping cherry trees found in private gardens throughout the samurai district. I believe most, if not all of these, were in fact brought by samurai families from Kyoto, interestingly enough. And you can also, in addition to in the town, you can see these, there's also a 2-kilometer stretch along the nearby Hinokinai River, although sadly we won't be looking at that today. But for those of you who really want to appreciate some amazing cherry blossom, the perfect time to visit and enjoy this would be from late April to early May. So interestingly, a full month after Tokyo. So as we can see, it's also especially known for this beautifully preserved samurai district where the clan's high-ranking retainers lived. It's one of the best surviving examples of samurai architecture, and that's where we'll be starting today. Now, an interesting thing we're going to notice a little bit as we explore the town is that, especially throughout Japanese history, class was very distinct. Different castes, like for example the merchants and samurai, were separated and tended to live in different areas of the city. And it's interesting that merchants, despite their wealth and influence, especially during peacetime, were technically the lowest of those 4 castes. So lastly, just to put Kakunodate in a bit of perspective, it's a relatively small and pretty rural town. It's not as built up as the ones closer to the political action in, say, Tokyo or Kyoto. And one really noticeable thing to look out for as we're walking around is the walls lining those streets. Pretty much every different castle town you can explore in Japan has a bit of a difference there. And here, they're often made from packed mud, but here in Kakunodate, you get these really elegant fences made from black painted wood. Okay, so just a quick look at access and how to get there. From Tokyo, the quickest way to get to Kakunodate is to take the Komachi. That's an hourly Shinkansen on the JR Tohoku and Akita Shinkansen line. And the journey takes about 3 hours and costs just over 17,000 yen. That's with seat reservations included, as they are required. Now, with the trip being a little bit on the expensive side, if you're a non-Japanese passport holder, it really is worth considering the JR East Pass Tohoku area. What this does is it gives you unlimited travel on JR lines throughout the Tohoku area for 5 consecutive days for just 20,000 yen. So with just one return journey to Kakunodate, it already pays for itself, and then you've got these extra days when you can explore the area as you like. Now, if you want to pick one of these up, you can head to the ticket office of any major JR station in East Japan, where you can go to the counter or use one of the automatic machines equipped with a passport scanner. You can also buy it online, or if you live in the Tokyo area, it's well worth checking out the Japan Rail Cafe in Tokyo Station. Really interesting place to get some information, to find out about to get travel information. The pass is available there to buy at the counter, and you can even get a free travel consultation while you're there to help you plan your trip. Again, as this is only available to non-Japanese passport holders, just be sure to bring your passport along with you if you want to pick one of these up. Now, another note, especially for once travel starts to get back to normal and we start to see more international visitors, I know I can't wait, is that this journey is also fully covered by the Japan Rail Pass. Okay, so with that, all that information and a bit of an overview for you there, let's roll the video. So here we are making our way through the old samurai district. Now, to get to this point, it's just a very pleasant 15-minute walk from Kakunodate station and through just a part of the town. Really, as soon as you're getting to the samurai district, you can recognize it straight away from these, again, those dark painted fences I mentioned earlier, and these amazing tall trees on both sides. We actually visited towards the end of July when it was very, very hot, so it was quite nice to get some of that shade. So as we made our way along, there are just so many of these gorgeous looking traditional buildings, many of them with their own gardens in this neighborhood. A lot of these you can actually enter, which is great. So as we made our way along, we couldn't resist peeking through some of those gates. Now, just to the right of the street, you might not quite make it out, but to either side of us, that water is actually constantly flowing through those channels at the side of the street, which was a really nice scenic sort of touch. So for Andreas there, I know you like your samurai history. We're going to be looking at quite a lot of interesting stuff today, so I hope you enjoy that. So here we are at our first stop, which is the Aoyagi Residence. Now the Aoyagi family goes way back with Kakunodate, excuse me, all the way to 1570. As the town flourished, so did the family, and hence this, really quite grand estate with a series of buildings covering about 10,000 square meters. Now that just a note on that beautiful big gate that we walked through. That is the grandest of all the houses in the district, which really does say something about the status of this particular family. So passing through that lovely little courtyard there, we're now into the main building, and here is a little kitchen area. So you might be able to see in front of us some of those beautifully red lacquered boxes and things, and just peeking at us from the back room there, those look like those are rice cookers, I think. So this building within a building to our right is actually the old Rice Storehouse. And you can always note those from the big earthen walls and those really big, heavy doors in the front. But in fact, as we make our way inside that in just a moment, we're going to see that it's now been repurposed with a beautiful exhibition of arms, armor, and other artifacts. So absolutely one of my favourite bits of exploring the town, those beautifully preserved, fantastic suits of armour. And just here in the glass display case there, we could see coloured surcoats with the family crests. Those would be worn over the armour, and some armoured hats right there. And just like looking at that spear tip on the screen right there, it's absolutely amazing how well all of these individual items have been preserved. I think it's incredible. As we look at these suits of armor, we can see that just every square inch of these suits of armor have got some kind of interesting detail, whether that's brocade or the way they're brought together or interesting designs. There's just so much to look at. So here again, another one for the samurai buffs out there. Beautiful collection of amazingly polished swords. And right here, some incredibly beautiful fittings for those swords as well. And these are muskets. I'm not sure if that's still the technically correct term, but these muskets varying from, really quite basic to pretty sophisticated. I was really struck by this, I guess, illustrated book that we can see in front of us. That's really one of the few times I've seen a running samurai gun battle on horseback. And I know someone was mentioning earlier in the comments about a map of Kakunodate. Here we can see a detailed map of the whole town with each family name inscribed on the house in kanji. Now, this last part of the gallery, this corner, is another highlight. The armour on display here is an Aoyagi family heirloom. For any military geeks out there, the style of the helmet is a reference to Takeda Shingen, one of the great. The white banner we can see there on the right-hand side is one of the oldest items in the collection. That's 700 years old. And the two portraits that we can see here on the right, that is the last family head to wear the traditional haircut of the samurai and his wife, before that tradition ended with the Meiji Restoration. So coming out of the older Rice Storehouse, I got the chance to feel the weight of an actual full-length spear, as well as, just to the right of that, an older form of the katana swords which we saw in the exhibition, which I believe is designed to be used by horseback, so it's a little bit longer and has this more pronounced curve. That's called a tachi. So now we've come out of the main house and into the courtyard, and here in this outbuilding, you can see that it's been turned into another little gallery showing artworks from the family's collection. So here we are in the courtyard again, just having a bit of a look around. And just ahead of us we can see the bust of a samurai called Odano Naotake, who was a samurai from this domain who became a famous painter, who was known to have trained and learnt skills from foreign painters from Holland. And he became a real source of pride for the region. We saw some of his paintings in the gallery back there. And this beautiful folk style house in front of us, this is the Akita Folk Museum, and it's set in what would have been a very typical farmer's residence in the Edo period. Interestingly, it was actually relocated from an area in rural Akita Prefecture that was just about to be flooded by the building of a new dam. So just in the back there you can see a traditional fireplace and some lovely antique wooden furniture. So making our way up that gorgeous staircase there to the second floor, there's this collection of photos, documents and other mementos. I was really blown away by some of these photos, many of which date back over 150 years to the final years of the feudal age. And yes, this next photo just coming up, I believe that is a photo of Tokugawa Yoshinobu, who was the last shogun. So right there, these are samples of cherry tree bark used to cover and decorate all sorts of items, especially tea containers, and that's one of the most famous crafts in Kakunodate. Just ahead of that, there's also this nice little rest area where you can take a bit of a breather and look out on that gorgeous garden outside. So while we've got a bit of a quiet moment, to anyone who's just joined us, thanks so much for joining us today. We're actually doing a little tour of Kakunodate, a beautiful preserved former castle town in Akita Prefecture. And right now we're just exploring the Aoyagi Samurai Residence, which is one of the highlights there. Amabi, if I'm pronouncing that right, thank you so much. That's such a nice comment. It's really great to hear that some people enjoy the history side of things. I know I certainly do. Okay, so we're coming up to some more buildings here. This one to our left is a cherry bark craft workshop where you can sometimes see those cherry bark items being made. A bit of a shout out to Marab NYC. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Well, great to hear that you've actually been to see Kakunodate. So please do let us know how you think we're doing, and if there's anything that anything we've missed, or maybe even if it's how that compares to when you made your visit in 2015. So this building we're just entering here, this is the Samurai Tools and Utensils Museum. And I think we briefly discussed that the Edo period was a really peaceful and prosperous time for Kakunodate, and the samurai class found themselves without quite as much to do. And so many samurai families embraced the arts. And what we can see here on display are various kinds of toys and household items. And many of these were actually made by the wives and children of samurai as a sort of a secondary source of income. And again, thanks Marab NYC, I'm really pleased that you enjoy it. So up ahead, this is the Samurai Experience booth, and if you're interested in that kind of thing, if you make an appointment, you can actually try on a suit of armor if you wanted to here. We didn't have time for that, but never being one to turn down the opportunity to try on an interesting helmet, I did insist on trying this on. And these little boxes, interestingly, these are, I believe, palanquins. So these are essentially the boxes that you would have been carried around in if you were an important visitor or a resident there being carried to some sort of special appointment somewhere. And they really were surprisingly small. I certainly couldn't imagine fitting in there. But that's something that's a perk of the job if you're from a high-ranking samurai family. So right now we're actually circling back towards where we came in. So these buildings that you can see on the right are actually a wing of the main house. So just to our right here, that lovely thatch roof we just saw there. This part of the house here, this is one of Japan's best preserved samurai residences. That's where the family's rooms were, as well as a guest room reserved for the most important visitors, so seldom used. Oh, about that helmet that I tried on. Surprisingly heavy. I think you mentioned actually that they're often made from wood. That seemed to have a lot of metal in it, which made it a bit heavy, but yeah, it seemed to fit all right. So right now we've reached our second stop, which is the Ishiguro Residence. This is another beautiful house, about 200 years old, and still the home of the Ishiguro family. Again, there's a beautiful thatch roof and lots of tall trees around. Now, just as we make our way in, I'm not going to talk over him for long, but this is Ishiguro-san, and he is the 12th generation head of the family. And I'm sure you can tell, very knowledgeable, very, very nice guy that you can meet if you come here.
その中では一番古い建物で、また住居として生活をしているのはこの家1軒だけになってしまいました。江戸時代にはこの町にも200軒近く侍の家があって、その中でこちらの家は比較的身分の高いお金の管理、財政の管理、勘定役とか納戸役を務めていたので、お屋敷はどちらかといえば広い方のお家です。でこの2部屋は茶の間、家族で集まってご飯を食べたりするお部屋です。
It's a really interesting comment just there from Pixelbode, who mentions that the gates and fences may have been much higher in the Edo period than they are currently. That's interesting. Wouldn't it be great to see an old photo of the streets and see what it looked like then? Now, just here, You can see this sort of beautiful wooden sort of lattice just above the walls there. Those are called ramma. These ones with that turtle design are really interesting. You get, as the light passes through, really creates a nice effect on the walls and also allows air to circulate. As you can see, this room just opens out onto this gorgeous little landscape garden, just packed with tall trees. Really beautiful spot to yeah, just take a pause and think for perhaps. So just like with the Aoyagi residence that we saw before there, this is actually a complex of buildings, and just here we're making our way into an open space that leads into two more of those storehouses that we saw earlier with those big heavy doors. Now just here was a really interesting display about that thatched roof that we saw on the way in. Ishiguro-san mentioned that in most cases it's actually no longer legal for those sorts of roofs to be put on new buildings. They can only be repaired where they already exist. But as you can see, their straw was commonly used in Japanese history, not just for roofing, but also for clothes, as protection from rain and snow. And that little hole in the ground we saw there was an underground space where vegetables were stored back in the day. So making our way into one of those storehouses, we see another beautiful set of armor there. Again, just pristine condition, perfectly preserved. Really wonderful to look at. So for Fong Fong, who comments there, I'm not sure about a local bus. What we'll try and do is come back to that at the end of the video. But I think I mentioned it's actually only a very short, pretty picturesque walk, about 15 minutes from the station, so quite easy to do on foot. But we'll see if we can find those out for you. What we just missed just there, those interesting little knives, those are called kozuka, which is a bit like a samurai pocket knife that slots into your into the handle of your sword, and some ornamental tsuba, or sword hilts. Really beautiful pieces. So as Andreas was just mentioning about the sword hilts, yeah, absolutely, really interesting to look at those. I'm not sure to what extent those would ever have been used practically, so to speak. A lot of sword fittings were just treasures in their own right, but yeah, really gorgeous craftsmanship on those. So right, we are after one last look at that amazing house there, we're now back on the street and making our way south towards the former merchant district. Again, it's about a 10-minute walk, so quite easy to do on foot. And again, as I think I mentioned earlier on, you can see how the samurai part of town and the merchant part of town are quite clearly delineated due to that separation in caste. So this will give you a little bit of a sense of what it was like just to walk through, I guess you could say, the regular part of Kakunodate town. Just seems like a pretty typical, fairly rural town, very quiet, but mixed in with these fairly typical rural buildings. I'm sorry, there were some really nice old warehouse structures, so there are certainly some signs of history as you make your way through the town. So just to recap again, this is sort of the middle part of town, I guess you would say. You'll have to make your way through this to get from the samurai district, which is more towards the north, and then the merchant part of town here in the south. Okay, and here we are at the Ando Miso Shop and Soy Sauce Brewery. This was established towards the end of the Edo period in 1853, and for me at least, what was really striking is this amazing brick building that you can see. This was built a few years later in 1883. Now, the Ando family have, again, a long history in Kakunodate. They were originally landlords and turned to miso and soy as a side business. They sort of put a lot of effort into learning traditional production in what is today Ibaraki Prefecture, and then went to great pains to pass that knowledge on from generation to generation. Inside the store, you can see a pretty wide range of different food products. Really fascinating stuff for anyone interested in cooking, especially traditional cooking. And also to one side there, the preserved remains of the family's original townhouse. So just to answer that last question there, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce the name. Probably not the town if you were interested in samurai experiences, although I think we did see there was a little samurai experience hut in the last building. For things like that, there are lots of places to check out, but I think Kyoto in particular is a good place for kind of hands-on experiences, I guess. So yeah, just responding to tasty chronicles there. Yeah, I thought we sort of felt that the samurai district is really interesting, but it's nice to kind of contrast that with this other sort of aspect of culture. Right, we're now making our way back into that storage part of the building that we saw, the part of the building covered in bricks. And as you can see, it's actually been furnished inside with tatami flooring, these delicate paper doors, and painted screens called fusuma. And as well as being the oldest brick warehouse in Tohoku, it's one of just a very select few to be decorated like that inside. So, Marab NYC, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is actually the last in the current series, but please do keep your eyes peeled on the, just check out on the main website, and if we, the next time we create something like this, I'm sure we'll announce it there. So one of the highlights of visiting the store is you can actually try some of these different food products. I think that was just some dashi that I was trying. So just a fairly simple kind of stock that you could use in all sorts of everyday cooking. And yet it really did have this sort of extra kind of, it's hard to explain, but flavoursome quality to it. Well, coming back to Marab NYC, if you did enjoy this one, you can still check out the previous video tours we did on YouTube, so please do give those a look. You can see those paper doors are getting a bit of love in the comments. Yeah, just being in that room was really amazing. The sort of the quality of the painting on the screens there. My feeling, I think I understand these were used, it was used as a room to essentially entertain important business visitors. Hence it's just really quite a unique place to see. And here, in fact, inside that townhouse part of the store, it's just covered with different sort of family mementos and these photos on the walls, just looking down on you the whole time. It really gives you this sense of history, I guess, and the feeling of previous generations. So coming back to Fong Fong's question just there about admission charges. So the shop that we're currently in, this is free because it's essentially just a store that you can peruse and buy things from. The Aoyagi Residence, which was the first one that we went to, I believe is 500 yen. And the second one, the Ishiguro Residence, is 400 yen. So as you can see, we've now left that and making our way back through the merchant district. Just at the bottom left of your screen there, you can see a spring, which the Ando family say that particular source of really pure water has been one of the secrets of their success. From here, again, it's just about a sort of 15-minute walk back to the station. Again, it's a very pleasant walk through the town. You'll see that it's sort of dotted with some sort of nice historical buildings. And here we are, you can just about see the station right there. Okay, so that was Kakunodate. So again, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and please do let us know in the comments how we did, and if maybe that's made it onto your travel wish list for the future. So as I mentioned, I'm going to stick around for a bit and answer any questions you might have had about Kakunodate, about us, about travel in general, and maybe even get to a few questions that I might have missed during the video itself. Thank you very much, Amabi. Coming back, I got a question from Fong Fong right at the end there, which I wasn't completely confident about at the time, but I can see that indeed the Aoyagi Residence, the admission is 500 yen, the Ishiguro House is 400 yen. Great to hear that that sounds like some of you enjoyed that at least, and really great to hear that you'll consider visiting this destination. It was my first time in that town, although I had heard of it before, and it really did meet my expectations. Just a beautiful area to explore, and like I said, I'd be happy to go back and see it again, and perhaps also see the that riverside, which sounds really nice. So let's see if we've got some extra questions that we missed. So Robert Bradshaw asks, do you expect Japan to be open for tourists next year? Well, as I'm sure you can imagine, here at Japan Guide, we would like nothing better than for things to resume as soon as it's safe and possible to do so. We absolutely hope that Japan will soon follow other countries in reopening, but no details have yet been decided. Yeah, but we certainly hope that it will do. Now, messaging on what's happening with that, with regulations, with rules, can be a little bit confusing. So I would be happy to recommend our updates page on our website. I think that's a pretty good source of information. We've kind of condensed it a little bit and made it nice and clear. So yeah, please do check the website for further updates as they arise. Beppunina mentioned Tohoku is beautiful during fall. Yes, some of the best fall color spots in Japan are located in the Tohoku region. The colors will start pretty soon actually in the highest elevations, and then gradually descend into the lower elevations through the month of October and into November. Now, Kakunodate, although especially beautiful in cherry blossom, it might be worth mentioning that it's not necessarily considered one of the absolute greats for autumn colors. I think a lot of the trees we saw there are evergreen. We did see some maples, so that might be nice to see, but it's not necessarily the first spot I would recommend for that. So Marab NYC, where would I find the schedule for future live streams? So we don't currently have anything scheduled, but we've certainly had a really good time putting these live streams together. So if we get back to doing something like that, we will be happy to announce it on the website. I think you'll see a link for that shared in the comments, so please do take a look at that. So DOG asks, how much time does it take to get there from Tokyo? We covered this briefly in the intro, but I'm sure a few of you will have arrived later on. You're looking at about a 3-hour journey on the Shinkansen from Tokyo. In fact, let's just take a quick look at that, and I'll see if I can make that a bit clearer for you. So I don't know if you can all see that on your screens. Let's have a look at the access information again. Okay, so as I mentioned before, from Tokyo, the quickest way to get to Kakunodate is to take the Komachi. That's an hourly Shinkansen on the JR Tohoku and Akita Shinkansen lines. Journey takes about 3 hours and costs just over 17,000 yen. Seat reservations are required. I think I mentioned briefly that that means that the JR East Pass Tohoku area is a really good deal for that, because you've already paid for it, essentially it already pays for itself just with the return journey, and then you've got some extra days of free travel in the Tohoku area you can enjoy afterwards. Okay, so Amabi asks, are there accommodations nearby? Now, you'd probably need to look into this in a little bit more detail. I didn't notice a lot in the way of places to stay in Kakunodate itself, but there certainly are some towns nearby where you could. So Fong mentioned that we were very lucky to have the whole samurai district to ourselves. Yeah, it was wonderfully nice and peaceful and quiet. So yeah, really, really good to enjoy. I think exploring these sorts of places, including busy tourist areas during the time of Corona, is definitely been an interesting experience there. Liam Lee asks, do I speak Japanese? Japanese is very much an ongoing struggle for me. I think I have enough to get by in my day-to-day life. It's certainly not as good as I would like it to be. I think I've got to a point where I can sort of chat to people a little bit and sort of, yeah, have some of those sort of interactions, but I'm certainly not an expert by any means. I hope that'll improve in the future. DAJ asks, what is the food that you can't miss from that part of Japan? I don't know. I'm not quite sure about that. I don't know of any particular delicacies in Kakunodate itself. When we were shooting the video, one of the places we stopped over was Sendai, and we were lucky enough to enjoy a very, very nice meal of gyutan. That's sort of beef tongue, which is very famous for. Really, really nice, especially for people who enjoy meat. So Andreas asks, is it possible to get there directly from Osaka, or do we have to go to Tokyo and then get to Akita Prefecture? Well, you would certainly need to change at Tokyo to take that Shinkansen. I don't believe there's certainly no kind of through service. So yeah, I would take one of those. I would take a Shinkansen from Osaka to Tokyo and then change there. Amabi mentions my mum is from Sendai. Yeah, well, we were lucky enough to stay overnight in Sendai on this trip. That was my first visit, and yeah, it seemed like a lovely city that I'll be happy to go back to at some point in the future. Okay, well, it looks like that's all we've got time for today. So I just wanted to thank all of you so much for joining us for this and for our previous virtual tours. It's been really, really fun getting to interact with you guys and chat a little bit. And yeah, and I hope this might have introduced you to some destinations in Tohoku that you might not have known about otherwise. So again, guys, thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to hopefully doing something similar again in the future. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much.